In the next edition of It's About Money, my guest will be Peter Carpino from the United Way of Greater Rochester. Be sure to tune in the next show of It's About Money. Hello and welcome to this edition of It's About Money. I'm Nannette Nocon and my guest is Peter Carpino and he's the president of the United Way of Greater Rochester. Peter, thanks very much for being here today.
Oh, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity.
I'm excited about the various ways that United Way has had a role in our community in a lot of different new ways of looking at giving and receiving, if you will. And tell us about the major roles of United Way in Rochester.
I think that the major roles are three. First, as an organization, we exist to advance the common good, and we do that by changing and uplifting individual lives. Mm-hmm. A second key role that we have is to identify and address some of the root causes, the most pressing issues we're facing as a community. And as you know, there are many. Mm-hmm. And I think our third principal role is to raise the dollars that are necessary to address those first two things.
That's great. I love that because it's most people think of it the financial first, but I love the approach of looking at it from individually raising people's ability to be part of the community.
You are so right. I mean, when folks think about United Way, they always associate us with the fundraising. The fundraising is only a means to an end. Mm-hmm. If we don't look realistically at what the issues that this community is facing, and our objective then is to apply a limited charitable dollar in the wisest and best way to attack those issues.
Fantastic. Now, during your leadership, you've influenced the change of the way how the organization has been structured, both in the way the agencies are viewed and also in the way that donations are received. Help us, give us a 10,000-foot perspective on that.
Yeah, that's a great question. So what I often say to folks is United Way was a great model for the old economy. And what I mean by that is when manufacturing employment was really high, United Way did very, very well. But over the years, as manufacturing has gotten smaller, as there's been a shift away from manufacturing into the service and technology industry, when you think about the consolidations that have happened in the financial services industry, when you look at the change in leadership in our community, it's been incumbent upon us as an organization to begin to do business differently. And so when we talk about how can we do the best job for the community in terms of raising funds so we can apply it toward community needs, we've really had to rethink the model that we are using in light of the changes that are happening in the workplace.
That's brilliant. So help me divide out the way that you look at it. So the perspective is different, the approach is different, you're looking at the community in different ways. Help us with some of, let's start out with the way of giving, right? There are different ways of, it used to be payroll deduction that people gave. What are the new ways that people are making contributions?
That's been one of the biggest changes we've had to make because, again, with the old model that was workplace focused, and don't get me wrong, I mean, we are still in many, many workplaces in the community. People give very generously through their workplaces. We're raising nearly $27 million. But the reality of it is that people are not where they used to be. The new economic drivers now are small businesses, so we're looking for how do we reach them. We have individuals working out of their homes. We have retirees who used to contribute to the United Way but no longer employed. And so what we've tried to do is to give these individuals, small businesses and so forth, those outside of the workplace, a point of access. And what we're doing, the way we're doing that, is by developing new web-based tools that individuals can use so that they can choose to give back to the community. They do it on their terms, but we as a United Way are enabling their charitable giving.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. One of the things I like about the new way to give is giving gift certificates of giving. And I thought, wow, what a cool way to do it. I put it in my shopping cart, and then I could give that as a gift. Tell us a little bit more about how that might work.
Well, again, what we wanted to do, we set up a new tool called Gathering to Give. And as I indicated, we wanted it to be a point of access. So those who wanted to give back to the community but didn't know how, that they could use that. And one of the options that we're offering folks is the opportunity to present someone with a charitable gift certificate. And the way that works is that if you were celebrating a special anniversary or special occasion, I might choose to go to the Gathering to Give site, get a gift certificate, a charitable gift certificate, which then I would give to you in honor of your whatever you're celebrating, and then you have the option to go onto the site and choose how you want to spend that. So if you're interested in services for the homeless, for example, you could apply your gift there. If you're interested in services for children, you could apply your gift there. So we think it's a different approach, and how many folks don't need other gifts, but it's the thought that matters.
Yeah, I think it's great. There's so many different occasions. You know, someone retiring, people might honor them with a gift certificate.
Absolutely.
And they would have these funds that they could allocate to agencies or organizations, non-for-profits that they might like. I think it's brilliant to be able to do that, to reach out to people in different ways. Let's go back to the first role that you had mentioned about United Way, and that's developing individuals to be meaningful, have a meaningful role in the community. What are some of the projects or initiatives that United Way has backed in terms of developing individuals as healthy members of the community?
When we think about what this community needs, leadership is absolutely key. So one of the things that United Way has been doing for 25 to 30 years is looking at community members and working with them to develop their leadership capacity so that they can serve on the boards of not-for-profit agencies and to make a contribution in that way. And we are running a leadership development program that's called the Latino Leadership Development Program. We run an African American Leadership Development program. And hopefully in the fall of 2013, we expect to launch a leadership development program for Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders.
That's fantastic. I think it's great because you're absolutely right. You always have to replenish the leadership in the community in order to promote and continue the good work that's happening.
It's exactly right. And it's about getting people to contribute their thought leadership, right? It's not just about their dollars. It's about their time. It's about their talents and thought leadership. And again, as a community, we're facing some pretty serious issues. And there's no single solution to any of these issues. And I think the best way that we can approach it is to get everybody's best thoughts and best ideas about that. And so the way you do that is to have, you increase the diversity of your boards, and by engaging people, then you increase the inclusiveness of those boards.
So basically, United Way allows this opportunity for individuals in the community to then participate as board members in other organizations.
Exactly.
So you're not just preparing them for United Way, but really for the common good.
Exactly. That's what it's all about.
And really doing what it is. It's an umbrella organization in town.
And it's how do we bring the resources of the community? And when we talk about resources, it's volunteer talent. It's not just money.
Yes, of course, right. And some might have the talents vary from individual to the other. So how has the change in the mission, well, actually the mission's been the same, but the way that's organized in terms of giving and the grouping the various agencies in the community, if you will, how has the donors and the agencies perceive that? Are they come to United Way and say, we need some additional leaders? Do you organize in that way, or do they just kind of happen naturally when you develop the leaders?
That's a great question. So earlier when we were talking about the fundraising challenges and how we're changing our fundraising model, the other reality that we had to face was that when you look at the downsizing of our major corporations, that by and large, this community no longer has the capacity, the philanthropic capacity, to support all the things it supported in the past. And one of the things that we as United Way take very seriously is how do we make the wisest and best use of every charitable dollar that's entrusted to us. Mm-hmm. And I think that's particularly important when you have fewer dollars to deal with. So about 4 years ago, what we decided to do was we said we can have the greatest impact if we focus on a critical few things. And now we are focused on 4 key areas. One is helping to meet people's basic needs, food, clothing, shelter. Because before people have their basic needs met, they're not going to be able to deal with any other issues. We also want to, in dealing with their basic needs, we also want to help them prevent homelessness and home foreclosure. A second key area is in early education. Mm-hmm. And one of the ways that we're working with parents and young children is helping parents develop more effective parenting skills. Unfortunately, many parents raising children, particularly first-time mothers, may not have necessarily had good parenting role models. Mm-hmm. And so we're helping them to develop those skills with the aim of reducing child abuse and neglect. And we're investing in programs that do that. Third area of focus is around school-age youth. We want to make sure that they succeed in school. And we do that by supporting programs that give them a place to go after school enrichment, summer enrichment programs, and then mentoring. Mm-hmm. And then finally, as you think about how the demographics in this community are changing and how the population is aging, that's our fourth area of focus. And so how do we support caregivers, and how do we help older adults age in place and continue to live independently? And so by focusing on those 4 areas, just a couple of strategies in those areas, by investing in programs that have been proven to work, this is the way in which we feel that we're helping those who contribute to United Way have the assurance of knowing that their dollars are being used in the wisest and best way.
That's brilliant. It's really wonderful to think of the life continuum and how individuals might need help at various stages and what kind of critical areas that might be. So it's a great way to look at that. And if I remember about 30 years ago, when I first moved to the United States, to Rochester actually, it's always been touted as United Way being very efficient in terms of its operations, using the use of operating dollars. How is that tradition held up over the years?
It's held up extremely well. I'm pleased and proud to share with you that this year our United Way received a 4-star out of 4-star rating by Charity Navigator, which, as you know, reviews all the 990 forms of charitable organizations, looks at fundraising effectiveness, fundraising efficiency, the amount of money going to programs. Yeah. So we're very proud of that. It's a point of pride for us. It cost us 8 cents to raise $1. And I think when you look at that against other national charities, other benchmarks, we're very proud of the stewardship.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
that's
thanks.
wonderful. That's
Thank
wonderful. You. So how much in total does United Way, what is the budget of United Way on an annual basis, or at least in 2013?
The operating budget?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
It's about $6.4 million.
Oh my, that's okay.
And that covers, that is our total budget. That covers a 6-county area. And because in addition to Monroe County, we're covering Wayne and Ontario counties on the east, in Wyoming, Livingston and Genesee on the west.
That's great. And then the money raised from payroll deductions, you said, is about $27 million, is that?
In total. We raised last year nearly $27 million, and that comes from a combination of the gifts of individuals who may no longer be in the workplace, retirees, for example. It includes gifts that are given by individuals at the workplace.
I see.
It includes corporate gifts from corporations, so it's and special event fundraising is included in that as well, and all of that tallies up to the near $27 million.
Fantastic, thank you. We'll take a quick break. My guest is Peter Carpino, is the president of the United Way of Greater Rochester. We'll be right back.
Here we go. What? What?
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent, because kids in foster care don't need perfection. They need you.
Things can come and go quickly these days, but one thing has been sure and steady, and if you haven't noticed, it's been on the air for over 10 years now. Nannette Nocon has been a Rochester Public Access television fixture. With her highly accredited financial background, viewers are sure to learn some tips of the trade. Her show, It's About Money, has been educating, informing, entertaining, and inspiring viewers since 1996. She and her guests have been giving valuable advice on how to invest, spend, and save your hard-earned money. And who's not interested in money? So tune into your public access station for a new monthly episode of It's About Money for Rochester's finest in finance.
And we're back. I'm Nannette Nocon. It's About Money, and my guest is Peter Carpino, and he's the president of United Way of Greater Rochester. Thanks again for being here, Peter.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
We're talking about United Way. $27 million was the total amount raised from various sources in the 2013 last year. Tell me about this idea of Rock the Day. I love that. R-O-C, Rock the Day.
Rock the Day. We started Rock the Day in December of 2011. And it was an idea that we picked up from other communities. And the idea is that you have a 24-hour charitable giving blitz. And that's essentially what it is. And what we have done is we've opened up Rock the Day to the 9-county Finger Lakes region, to any nonprofit in that region, as a way for them to acquire new donors and to talk about their programs. And so the first year that we did this, and we had no idea, we put this together in 6 months. And in December of 2011, we raised $575,000 from over 6,000 donors in 24 hours. Mm-hmm. Last year, the amount raised grew to $875,000, and the number of donors grew to 10,000. Nice. And we're hoping this year that we can break the $1 million mark. And the reason this has taken off is because particularly younger donors absolutely love this. There's a great deal of excitement about this. They can pick whatever agency they want. The agencies love it because it gives them exposure. And it is a very non-united way of encouraging the community to give back.
Yeah, I think it's great. So it's called Rock the Day in Rochester because ROC Rochester. So we have a cool name.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
For that day. I think that's brilliant because, like you said, for the younger people, they could work with it on their telephone.
Absolutely.
And make the donation that way. And,
absolutely. And it's been interesting to see the friendly competition that happens between and among the nonprofits. They're able to get challenge grants. There's a lot of fun. The challenge grants work that, the agency that gets the most number of donors in a period of time gets additional money. So it's all good. Yeah. It's all good. We've gotten very positive reviews on it.
Well, that's great. Actually, one of the years, the first year you had done it, I had made a donation, and then it gave me a message that I had won another donation for another charity, yeah. And I could choose among the list in the drop down. I'm like, oh, how cool is that?
Exactly.
So I get to give away somebody else's money on top of mine. So I think that's brilliant. So in Rochester, we have the Rochester Area Community Foundation.
Yes.
Help me understand, and our viewers to understand, what's the difference between the two organizations, maybe a lot of similarities, of course. What is the biggest difference between the two organizations?
So let me start with the similarities. Okay. What both organizations are absolutely committed to is how do we improve quality of life? How do we advance the common good? Mm-hmm. And again, how do we uplift lives and change community conditions? And that's at the core of what both organizations do. When you look at the differences, the Community Foundation was formed in the early to mid 1970s. And it was with the idea that individuals would want to leave legacy gifts to give back to the community around a number of areas. So whereas United Way has always focused on the health and human service area, The beauty of the Community Foundation is it allows donors to provide dollars to fuel their passion. So you might have a donor who's interested in arts and culture and environmental issues, issues related to aging. It could be any number of things, historical preservation. And so this is an opportunity for, again, people to give back on their terms and know that they're helping to improve the quality of life. If you look at a difference, United Way has always been a broader-based philanthropic initiative than the Community Foundation. Just by point of reference, we have 77,000 individual donors. The Community Foundation has 1,800. But the Community Foundation's donors are very different. Again, the combined gifts from these individuals are in excess now, I believe, of $220 million. Very, very significant. And the Community Foundation and United Way always are looking increasingly for opportunities in which we can partner and collaborate, because that's where the community will benefit the most.
And I knew you had a project that's called Act Rochester.
Yes.
And tell us a little bit about that.
We were invited by the Community Foundation to partner with them, I'm going to say about 6 years ago, on a project that was called Act Rochester. And what Act Rochester is, it's referred to as a community indicators project. So the idea here was that we wanted to have a centralized place where the community could go to take a look at how are we doing as a community by looking at a set of key indicators. Those indicators might be related to education. It might be related to economic development. Might be related to arts and culture and tourism. But in any case, you could go to this one source, see what the trend lines have been. It's not only for Monroe County, but again, the counties in the Finger Lakes region. And the idea here was that then this information could help stimulate community discussion about why do we have higher incidence of childhood poverty in Monroe County, and what might we be able to do about it. And we felt very privileged to be part of that project for 5 years and get it running. And now the Community Foundation, thankfully for their leadership, the project continues and they're in the process of getting other sponsors.
That's fantastic.
It is a great tool, a reference tool that organizations can use in doing their own strategic planning and knowing how to apply, again, limited charitable dollars, limited resources to addressing community needs.
Yeah, so it's a lot of brilliance with collaborating among non-for-profits, and that's great.
Collaboration is what it's all about. Resources are getting tighter, whether those are public resources, whether those are private resources. The days are long gone when nonprofits can say we can go it on our own. And as a matter of fact, this is a big part of some of the work that United Way is doing, in that how can we help organizations to do business differently? If you look over the past 3 years, for example, we've helped probably between 15 and 18 agencies to merge operations. That's very significant when you look at how do you improve client service, how do you cut cost out of a system, and again, use charitable dollars wisely.
Sure, otherwise it's duplication of services.
Exactly.
The donors get bombarded with the same efforts, so it's nice to merge that and
Right.
serve the same population.
Right.
Yeah.
And what's been nice is, I think, because of the relationship that we've developed with the nonprofits are approaching us. So this is nothing that we can impose on folks, right? I can't tell you you need to merge with someone else.
Yes, right.
But we have developed a relationship with nonprofits where now they're coming to us and saying, we're thinking about this. Who could we partner with? What could we do?
That's wonderful. What a great thing.
It's really important. And I think it's another way that we add value to a donor's dollar.
Sure, absolutely. And you said it's for the greater good of the community anyway. So in 2018, the United Way of Greater Rochester celebrates 100 years. Wow. As you look back at the history of the organization, would you say that, what are some of the proudest moments, and what do you see in the next century, I guess?
I hope that Rochesterians appreciate what a gift the community chest, the forerunner to the United Way, now the United Way, is to this community, and how special this community is. And very often when I have people visit our offices for the first time, I bring them as we're heading down to my office, I show them some historical pictures rather. And the community chest first was started in 1918 as what was called the Patriotic and Community Fund. It was by George Eastman and other community leaders. It was considered the war chest. And what is absolutely amazing is in 1918, in 7 days, this community raised $3.75 million.
Oh my, big money.
In big money in 1918.
Yes,
in
right.
7 days.
Wow. Amazing.
And then when the war ended and we went to peacetime, the war chest became the community chest, and we were among one of the first. Okay. And so I think it was the vision of the community leaders. Number one is a very proud moment that they would do that. Mm-hmm. And then I think a second very proud moment is the fact that for many, many years, because of the generosity of this community and the willingness of people to give back, this United Way was the #1 United Way in the country in terms of the amount of money being raised on a per capita basis. Right. There was not another community, regardless of size, that was raising more money per person than Rochester, New York was. Mm-hmm. And again, a tremendous point of pride.
Yes.
And my hope, I think, as we approach our 100th year is that people will look back and say that while the changes might have been made late, that United Way took the initiative to recognize that it was a great model for an old economy, that a different model was necessary, that it changed the way it did business, and that what it kept as the central part of what it was doing was, again, helping to improve quality of life by addressing root causes of some of the most pressing issues.
That's great. As always, Gandhi says, be the change you want to be, and that's what the United Way has done. That's fantastic. I think that makes a lot of sense. Instead of watching the organization struggle, it's great to make the change forward. And
I think one of the things that we've had to deal with as an organization, because we were so successful, is it's hard to make change. Mm-hmm. It's hard to make change.
Sure.
But to the credit of our volunteers, those changes are being made. And hopefully we'll be here for another 100 years.
I'm sure, and I hope. I hope and I'm sure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being a guest at my show, Peter. It's been wonderful to look back at the beginning of United Way, to talk about what's happened and what's happening, and for others to know about how to give to the United Way. So really, they're just a computer click away from...
Just gatheringtogive.org.
Wonderful. And the main site, is it unitedway.org?
It's uwrochester.org.
uwrochester.org. Brilliant. Thank you. Wishing you the very best.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you for all you've done and continue to do for our community.
Very good. Thank you.
And thank you, our guests, for joining us. I'm Nannette Nocon. Until next time, it's about money.
Thanks for tuning in to today's show. If you have any questions for It's About Money, please email Nannette at nnocon@aol.com. This program was produced through Penfield Community Television in Penfield, New York.